Section 70 of Villette by Charlotte Bronte. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Leanne Fortune, Section 70. The Wool Ravens party, augmented in numbers, now became very gay. The gentlemen fetched refreshments from the kiosk. All sat down on the turf under the trees. They drank healths and sentiments. They laughed, they jested. Monsieur Emmanuel underwent some raillery, half good-humoured, half, I thought, malicious, especially on Madame Beck's part. I soon gathered that his voyage had been temporarily deferred of his own will, without the concurrence, even against the advice, of his friends. He had let the Antigua go, and had taken his berth in the Paul et Virginie, appointed to sail a fortnight later. It was his reason for this resolve which they teased him to assign, and which he would only vaguely indicate as the settlement of a little piece of business which he had set his heart upon. What was this business? Nobody knew. Yes, there was one who seemed partly, at least, in his confidence. A meaning look passed between him and Justine Marie. "La petite va m'aider, n'est-ce pas?" said he. The answer was prompt enough. God knows. "Mais oui, je vous adorerai de tout mon cœur. Vous ferez de moi tout ce que vous voudrez, mon parrain." And this dear parrain took her hand and lifted it to his grateful lips. Upon which demonstration I saw the light-complexioned young Teuton, Heinrich Müller, grow restless, as if he did not like it. He even grumbled a few words. Whereat Monsieur Emmanuel actually laughed in his face, and with the ruthless triumph of the assured conqueror, he drew his ward nearer to him. Monsieur Emmanuel was indeed very joyous that night. He seemed not one whit subdued by the change of scene and action impending. He was the true life of the party, a little despotic, perhaps, determined to be chief in mirth as well as in labour, yet from moment to moment proving indisputably his right of leadership. His was the wittiest word, the pleasantest anecdote, the frankest laugh. Restlessly active, after his manner, he multiplied himself to wait on all. But oh, I saw which was his favourite. I saw at whose feet he lay on the turf. I saw whom he folded carefully from the night air, whom he tended, watched, and cherished as the apple of his eye. Still, hint and raillery flew thick, and still I gathered that while Monsieur Paul should be absent, working for others, these others, not quite ungrateful, would guard for him the treasure he left in Europe. Let him bring them an Indian fortune. They would give him in return a young bride and a rich inheritance. As for the saintly consecration, the vow of constancy, that was forgotten. The blooming and charming present prevailed over the past, and at length his nun was indeed buried. Thus it must be. The revelation was indeed come. Presentiment had not been mistaken in her impulse. There is a kind of presentiment which never is mistaken. It was I who had for a moment miscalculated. Not seeing the true bearing of the oracle, I had thought she muttered of vision, when in truth her prediction touched reality. I might have paused longer upon what I saw. I might have deliberated ere I drew inferences. Some, perhaps, would have held the premises doubtful, the proofs insufficient. Some slow sceptics would have incredulously examined ere they conclusively accepted the project of a marriage between a poor and unselfish man of 40 and his wealthy ward of 18. But far from me such shifts and palliatives, far from me such temporary evasion of the actual, such coward fleeing from the dread, the swift-footed, the all-overtaking fact, such feeble suspense of submission to her the sole sovereign, such paltering and faltering resistance to the power whose errand is to march conquering and to conquer, such traitor defection from the truth. No, I hastened to accept the whole plan. I extended my grasp and took it all in. I gathered it to me with a sort of rage of haste, and folded it round me as the soldier struck on the field folds his colours about his breast. I invoked conviction to nail upon me the certainty, abhorred while embraced, to fix it with the strongest spikes her strongest strokes could drive. And when the iron had entered well my soul, I stood up, as I thought, renovated. In my infatuation I said, Truth, you are a good mistress to your faithful servants. While a lie pressed me, how I suffered! Even when the falsehood was still sweet, still flattering to the fancy, and warm to the feelings, it wasted me with hourly torment. The persuasion that affection was won could not be divorced from the dread that, by another turn of the wheel, it might be lost. Truth stripped away falsehood, and flattery and expectancy, and here I stand free. Nothing remained now but to take my freedom to my chamber, to carry it with me to my bed, and see what I could make of it. The play was not yet, indeed, quite played out. I might have waited and watched longer that love scene under the trees, that sylvan courtship. Had there been nothing of love in the demonstration, my fancy in this hour was so generous, so creative, she could have modelled for it the most salient lineaments, and given it the deepest life and highest colour of passion. But I would not look. I had fixed my resolve, but I would not violate my nature. And then something tore me so cruelly under my shawl, something so dug into my side, a vulture so strong in beak and talon. I must be alone to grapple with it. I think I never felt jealousy till now. This was not like enduring the endearments of Dr. John and Paulina, against which, while I sealed my eyes and my ears, while I withdrew thence my thoughts, my sense of harmony still acknowledged in it a charm. This was an outrage. The love born of beauty was not mine. I had nothing in common with it. I could not dare to meddle with it, but another love, venturing diffidently into life after long acquaintance, furnace tried by pain, stamped by constancy, consolidated by affection's pure and durable alloy, submitted by intellect to intellect's own tests, and finally wrought up, by his own process, to his own unflawed completeness. This love that laughed at passion, his fast frenzies and his hot and hurried extinction, in this love I had a vested interest, and whatever tended either to its culture or its destruction, I could not view impassively. I turned from the group of trees and the merry company in its shade. Midnight was long past, the concert was over, the crowds were thinning. I followed the ebb. Leaving the radiant park, and well-lit Hauteville, still well-lit, this it seems was to be a nuit blanche in Villette, I sought the dim lower quarter. Dim I should not say, for the beauty of moonlight, forgotten in the park, here once more flowed in upon perception. High she rode, and calm and stainlessly she shone. The music and the mirth of the fete, the fire and bright hues of those lamps, had outdone and outshone her for an hour. But now, again, her glory and her silence triumphed. The rival lamps were dying. She held her course like a white fate. Drum, trumpet, bugle had uttered their clangour, and were forgotten. With pencil ray she wrote on heaven and on earth records for archives everlasting. She and those stars seemed to me at once the types and witnesses of truth all regnant. The night sky lit her reign, like its slow wheeling progress, advanced her victory, that onward movement which has been, and is, and will be, from eternity to eternity. These oil-twinkling streets are very still. I like them for their lowliness and peace. Homeward-bound burghers pass me now and then, but these companies are pedestrians, make little noise, and are soon gone. So well do I love Villette under her present aspect, not willingly would I re-enter under a roof, but that I am bent on pursuing my strange adventure to a successful close, and quietly regaining my bed in the great dormitory before Madame Beck comes home. Only one street lies between me and the Rue Fossette, As I enter it for the first time, the sound of a carriage tears up the deep peace of this quarter. It comes this way, comes very fast. How loud sounds its rattle on the paved path! The street is narrow, and I keep carefully to the causeway. The carriage thunders past, but what do I see, or fancy I see, as it rushes by? Surely something white fluttered from that window. Surely a hand waved a handkerchief. Was that signal meant for me? Am I known? Who could recognize me? That is not Monsieur de Bassompierre's carriage, nor Mrs. Bretton's, and besides, neither the Hotel Crécy nor the Chateau of La Terrasse lies in that direction. Well, I have no time for conjecture. I must hurry home. Gaining the Rue Fossette, reaching the pensionnat, all there was still. No fiacre had yet arrived with Madame and Desiree. I had left the great door ajar. Should I find it thus? Perhaps the wind or some other accident may have thrown it to with sufficient force to start the spring bolt. In that case, hopeless became admission. My adventure must issue in catastrophe. I lightly pushed the heavy leaf. Would it yield? Yes, as soundless, as unresisting, as if some propitious genius had waited on a sesame charm in the vestibule within. Entering with bated breath, quietly making all fast, shoelessly mounting the staircase, I sought the dormitory and reached my couch. I reached it and once more drew a free inspiration. The next moment I almost shrieked, almost, but not quite, thank heaven. Throughout the dormitory, throughout the house, there reigned at this hour the stillness of death. All slept, and in such hush it seemed that none dreamed. Stretched on the 19 beds lay 19 forms, at full length and motionless. On mine, the 20th couch, nothing ought to have lain. I had left it void, and void should have found it. What then do I see between the half-drawn curtains? What dark usurping shape, supine, long, and strange? Is it a robber who has made his way through the open street door, and lies there in wait? It looks very black. I think it looks not human. Can it be a wandering dog that has come in from the street, and crept and nestled hither? Will it spring? Will it leap out if I approach? Approach I must. Courage! One step. My head reeled, for by the faint night lamp I saw stretched on my bed the old phantom, the nun. A cry at this moment might have ruined me. Be the spectacle what it might, I could afford neither consternation, scream, nor swoon. Besides, I was not overcome. Tempered by late incidents, my nerves disdained hysteria. Warm from illuminations, and music, and thronging thousands, thoroughly lashed up by a new scourge, I defied spectra. In a moment, without exclamation, I had rushed on the haunted couch. Nothing leapt out, or sprung, or stirred. All the movement was mine. So was all the life, the reality, the substance, the force, as my instinct felt. I tore her up, the incubus. I held her on high, the goblin. I shook her loose, the mystery, and down she fell, down all around me, down in shreds and fragments, and I trode upon her. Here again, behold the branchless tree, the unstable Rosinante, the film of cloud, the flicker of moonshine. The long nun proved a long bolster dressed in a long black stole, and artfully invested with a white veil. The garments, in very truth, strange as it may seem, were genuine nuns' garments, and by some hand they had been disposed with a view to illusion. Whence came these vestments? Who contrived this artifice? These questions still remained. To the head bandage was pinned a slip of paper. It bore in pencil these mocking words: "The nun of the attic bequeaths to Lucy Snowe her wardrobe. She will be seen in the Rue Fossette no more." And what and who was she that had haunted me? She I had actually seen 3 times. Not a woman of my acquaintance had the stature of that ghost. She was not of a female height. Not to any man I knew could the machination for a moment be attributed. Still mystified beyond expression, but as thoroughly, as suddenly relieved from all sense of the spectral and unearthly, scorning also to wear out my brain with the fret of a trivial though insoluble riddle, I just bundled together stole, veil, and bandages, thrust them beneath my pillow, lay down, listened till I heard the wheels of Madame's home-returning fiacre, then turned, and worn out by many nights' vigils, conquered too perhaps by the now reacting narcotic, I deeply slept. End of section 70. Recording by Leanne Fortune.